Good afternoon. This is Mini Pots once again with a flip through. This time it is Osprey War Games Hide, Stone, and Bone, a Paleolithic skirmish war game written by Austin Hunt. What it is about: Hide, Stone, and Bone is a war game of hunting and combat in which players lead tribes of early human ancestors as they attempt to survive in the face of the perils of the Ice Age. From season to season, tribes seek to grow and prosper, engaging in various big days that represent important events such as mammoth hunts, attacks by cave bears, and clashes with rival tribes. In between these encounters, tribes must gather food, craft tools and weapons, and consult their shamans to prepare themselves for the next threat, be it from enemies, animals, nature, or something stranger. While the skirmishes and hunts for big days are resolved using a D10 based alternate activation system, Hide, Stone, and Bone also features a detailed campaign system that forms a core part of the gameplay experience. Ultimately, survival is all. Defeating other tribes is not the only sole focus. It is possible for tribes to thrive, even if the fortunes of war are against them. With options for solo, co-op, and competitive play, Hide, Stone, and Bone give players all the tools they need to meet the challenges of the Ice Age and lead their tribes into a prosperous future. So here I have my cobblestone casting caveman miniatures. I've been working on those on and off over the last couple of weeks, and they are from North Star Miniatures. There is a couple different groups that you can get. You can get the ones that were originally designed for tribal, and then you can also get these miniatures, and they're both produced by North Star. Great line of miniatures. The game here is, the way it's structured, it reminds me of an old-timey war game, something from like the 70s or 80s. And the tradition for more modern miniature war games has been up front, you get what you need, then it goes into how to play the game, maybe how, if you're doing a war band. First, before how to play the game, I'll even go how to create a war band, then how to play. It might even give a sample of a war band. That's not what this is. It's just a plain old cool war gamey slash historic something else going on. So we have some basic definitions. Dice, as it says on the back, you're going to be using primarily D10. Your tests, and these are against the abilities of your miniatures. Turn order, it's an alternate activation turn order. Now, as I understand that was, I move a miniature, you move a miniature, and it goes back and forth, and then you go into combat. That's when we get there in the book, that is debatable. There's some basic actions, complex actions, advanced actions, rights, and then of course the rule of cool. The basic thing on how to create a warband, and then campaign, equipment, how to set up your board, basic models, and then if you want to do something a little bit off the beaten track, how to incorporate dinosaur hunters, or possibly like an Aztec and Atlantean race in your primitive world. Then you have the big day scenarios. These are the world beneath is alternate rule set. You do not need it to play. It's not dependent upon anything, but it is defined in everything. So that way, if you want it, it's there, and you don't have to go hunting for it. And if you don't want it, it gives you works around. Then there's a common little AI system for your animals that you might be fighting against if you wanted to play solo, and then recommended reading. You will be playing either humans or Neanderthals. There are 3 different or 4 different types of gameplay. There are raids, where you would go into an opposing force. There's hunting, where you are out there choosing to kill the mammoth, the auroch, the bison, or you're being hunted by the wolves, saber-toothed tiger, cave bears, etc. Moons. This is what the... Let me read this. Things don't cost money, instead they cost time. Ancient peoples tend to mark the passage of time by cycles of the moon and the passage of seasons. So too does hide, stone, and bone. Finding the right tree, gathering and knapping stones for tools, or tanning hides are all time intensive, as is gathering enough food to feed everybody. A band that focuses too intently on making weapons and waging war against rival hominids may find themselves eating each other when winter comes. Sounds a little bit, well, okay. Let's forget I read that part, but let's go on. Moons in the term of the game is the term for the game currency, which players use in exchange for discovering new technologies, creating equipment, as well as gathering food so that your band might survive. Facing of your miniature values. So you have, this is for an adult Neanderthal, but you can also be hominids, which is what I have here, my miniatures. So you have your stamina, movement, attack, dodge, wounds, toughness, ability, agility, and stress. Stamina, how many actions a model can take in each activation. Movement, how far a model can move. Attack, dodge, that's the evading the attack. Wounds, basically your hit points. Toughness, what you need to endure and incapacitate a given model. Agility. Stress. Now this is interesting, this is sort of the morale. This can keep you on the board playing or remove you from the board depending on what's going on. Pre-measuring. In this game, there is a limited form of pre-measuring in the sense that, as it's defined here, the controlling player may measure 12 inches from a model at the start of the model's activation, before movement, before anything like that. That's the only pre-measuring he gets. So there's a chance that when you shoot, you will fall short, or the target will be well out of your range depending on what's going on or how far you moved or didn't move. Terrain. Casualty. When your guys die or get wounded. Line of sight. Object. Random direction. It says basically the idea is when you roll the idea that the point of the D10, and then there's also a scatter dice if you happen to have the old GW scatter dice. Short range is 6 inches. Anything from 6 inches to 12 inches is considered long range. Dice. Now this is where he defines the dice that you will need and be using, and different terms. Roll off, D10, D5, D6, D3, D100, D50, natural roll, natural 1. Nothing is guaranteed in the Stone Age, and even sure things are prone to failing at the worst possible moment. Apart from opposed rolls, a natural 1 is always considered a fail for any action a model takes, regardless of the number needed for or other modifiers. Natural 10 can often result in a special result. Often has a special result in combat. Tests. Tests are how game actions are resolved, whether it is to fight to the death or spotting hidden enemies. Combat. There are 4 combat tests. Fight, grapple, shoot, and throw to wound. Fight. It gives a basic idea of a 10. You're rolling a D10. So for fight tests, the roll off, adding adding their value, basic attack value for the attacker modifiers of their weapon. So you'd roll 2d10, one for you and one for your opponent. That happens to both be 10s. But if they're a tie, no hits are inflicted. If one is higher, you would roll for wounds. Grapple, the players roll off, adding their toughness value and any other appropriate modifiers. This is the hand-to-hand where you may not have a weapon, but you're going to wrestle basically with your opponent. And shoot and throw. Throwing is interesting in the sense that you have to have a high toughness so you can see a rock, pick it up, and then be able to throw it. We'll get to that again in a second. Agility. This is getting over tough terrain or moving through difficult terrain. Toughness. Stress. Now this is the player rolls a d10, increasing the model's stress characteristic by 1 for every stress token the model has. If the roll is equal to or greater than the model's stress, the model may act normally. If the test has failed, the model doesn't activate as normal, instead running d10 current number of stress tokens in inches toward the nearest border edge. And then he gives a wonderful example here. What causes stress? And there's all sorts of things. Seeing one of your teammates die or tribe mates die, being attacked, seeing one of your tribe mates being eaten by a polar bear. I just happen to have a polar bear over here, so that's what that came from. Turn order. At the start of each turn, players should roll off to determine which player has priority and activates a model first. A tied roll gives the player who didn't have priority last turn the first activation. Note that some scenarios state which player goes first, and there are some special rules and skills which enable a player to activate more than one model at a time. Typically, a player activates one model at a time, using all its stamina before the opponent goes to activate a model. Occasionally, more than one model may be activated at one time, and then he goes on to saying this if you're carrying something. Actions. Models controlled by players use their stamina to perform actions, which costs the amount of stamina noted in parentheses next to the action's names. Then it goes in if the models are using instinct tables, like your prey or your critters that are hunting you. So movement, you have 3 stamina. Movement costs 1 stamina. Climb, jump, aim, sneak, snag, stand or drag, not snag. Pick up, it can be 1 or 2, depends on the size of the object. And these are, then you go into complex action. So this is your stamina. The illustration I gave you was a Neanderthal, which had 3 stamina. So to move and possibly throw a spear would take all 3 stamina. So he would move up to 6 inches, then he would throw his spear, or she would throw their spear. There are fight modifiers listed under complex actions. Grapple, hurlstone, costs 2. So the model attempts to find a nearby rock, bone, or similar hard object and hurls it at the enemy. The roll needed to find a suitable stone is based on the model's toughness value. Now, there are some skills that will give you stones at the very beginning of the game, but that is under skills. Charge, yell, hide. Mount beast, yes, you will have a chance to mount that polar bear or however you want. Prone, that's if you're knocked prone. Spot, this is you're trying to see the saber-toothed tiger that's sneaking up onto you, or the pride of lions. That's where you could do it. Advanced action. Now, some of these will require skills to do. Scalp, swim, set fire, rights. So your tribe's advanced enough where it has a elder who's matured into a shaman. Bless, curse, enthrall, Stormcaller, Mighty Wind. Now these three are more of a science fiction, fantasy, right, but it's your game. You do with it what you want. Then he goes over campaign creation, definition of what seasons are. There are 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. The biggest impact the season has on a campaign is the amount of food a single hominid can gather. 4 seasons make a year, and a normal hide, stone, bone campaign will run for a predetermined set of years. 2 or 3 is most common, or until all bands save one have been driven to extinction. There are 2 types of resources: moons and food. The cost of items used to generate food. There's no money in, which we already know. There are 4 seasons per year, and each adult hominid in your band generates 3 moons per season. There are 3 moons per season and 4 seasons per year. From a purely gameplay standpoint, time is literally money. Food. This is exactly what it sounds like. All the various resources a band is primitive hominids need to help keep them from going extinct, gathering plants and small game for food, tanning hides, and all the other activities of survival which take up a huge amount of prehistoric band's time. Moons are spent to generate this during survival. Then you have extinction points. Now, after you created your band, you will have extinction points, and during the course of the gameplay, will go up and down, or down and up, depending on how you play. He defines band creation, which I'll go over a little bit more in detail. Defines the different types of band members. So you have young adult, adult and elder, and youth. Youth are non-combatant. They're generally not on the board, but there's a chance that you can play a couple scenarios where you will have youth on the board to be kidnapped by the raiding tribe, and that will increase decrease your extinction and possibly increase, just depending on what you're playing against or how you're playing it, the opposing tribe's extinction. Then he has a system of births, or gaining new members. He defines through births, capture, and tribal, meaning that you're part of a larger group that is much larger than your band here. Big days, these are what is talked about on the back, where you can hunt, raid, or be hunted, but it doesn't really say that here, but there's a chance you will be hunted. And every band must select 1 big day per season, unless they're having a quiet season. And that's a neat way to work if you're not doing the best and you want to do something else. Now, if you're playing this solo, there's not a way that I can see doing that unless you created a opposing player's tribe and you want to sort of play it that way, where you're going against your AI opponent type thing. Basically, you play the role of the predators who are now hunting your opponent's hominids. Then there's, after the game you played, the big day game, roll on survival table, and then you add experience for the survivors. Now, experience, as I see it, doesn't carry over, but there's a chance that young adults can become adults and adults can become elders. And there's some other things that can happen with that. Basically, your survival roll, experience, what a character gains, or one of your minis gains each turn in its progression. Skills. These are the different skills that you have to start with, and you gain them at the end of each big big game, big day. Possibly. Then your extinction point, this is where it goes up or down. And beast extinction, so you can actually hunt off all the animals in your area, making it more difficult to hunt. He goes over that. Seasonal activities. So each season, in addition to having your big day, you will be tool making, culture, and survival. And so each band member can perform 3 moons worth of seasonal activities every season. There are 3 types of seasonal activities. Any human that was removed as a casualty may not, but not killed, may only spend 1 moon as seasonal activities because of their more robust nature. Neanderthals removed as casualty but not killed may spend 2 moons on seasonal activity. So even though you hunted, it's still considered that during that time period you had time to nap tools or whatever. Culture, and it gives different definitions of culture. Now the tool making and the supply making is down defined over here under equipment and how long it takes to get certain things. And there is some equipment that can only be invented, such as a spear thrower, stone tip javelin, bow. And during the cultural stuff, you can generate war paint. It basically defines all the different things that you can work on: totem art, poison, and you may have to have done something, a prerequisite, in order to get or do some of these inventions or cultural things. You may to like do bone needles. They don't cost you any moons, but well, it tells you the positive effect, but it doesn't tell you. There's something up here where you have to have had certain skills. Like this one says here, it requires a shaman, the totem art. And researching it or inventing things, you do a D10, and then if they're successful, there's also a chance of reverse engineering. You see your opponent, you see him with stone-tipped spears. How did he do that? Maybe you captured one, figure out to tie the ligaments around the stone that hold it in place in the piece of split tree branch that keep it stable. And everyone has a chance together. Seasonal food supply, starvation, surviving, good times, saving food. You can save up to 50% of the food you gathered, carried over to the next season. Food upkeep, maturing youth. So at the end of each winter, there's a chance that your youth will mature. Procreation, having babies, defines that. Splitting the band. When you get to 30 individuals, your band will basically split up. And then you choose your next big day. Equipment. There is general equipment, such as a carrying bag, torches, ceremonial mask, headdress, scalp, bone necklace, hominid bone necklace, sort of spooky and creepy. eagle talon necklace, wolf pelt, bear headdress, fur cloak. Then there's different close combat weapon special rules. And you will notice that this chart is a little bit different than the one when you're creating your war band in what you get. So some things are more expensive, some things are cheaper. So for a 2 stone knives, at the start it costs you 1 moon. To create one from nothing, it costs you 1 moon. To do a club, 1 moon. Club is 1 moon. Stone club, 2 moons. 2 moons. But it has an asterisk. Some weapons need to be invented. So you would have to have invented the stone club, stone axe, fire hardened spear, and stone tip spear. Then you have your ranged weapons, thrown rock, fire hardened javelin, stone tipped, fire hardened spear, stone tipped spear, ranges, and it gives the maximum range. With a bow, you'll be able to shoot up to 24 inches. Losing weapon, so there's a chance because you threw it that the weapon broke. Table setup. Now this is cool for me. I don't. It's so easy to just get the things out, plop them on the table, and play. I like to have some sort of randomness to my setup, and this does it for me. This is, you use cards, and you would have hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades, and he tells you how many cards. There's 1 per square foot, if I read it correctly or remember it correctly. And then you lay a card and you flip it over, do the train in that. So yes, some things may not make initially sense, but he gives you, like, you'll have a crevasse, or deep water, jungle, grass, ferns, marsh, forest, bushes, tall grass, forest, and hills. Then he gives different definitions of cover, describes basically the terrain and what can or cannot happen in it. Model profiles, the basic adult hunter, adult gatherer. So there is some differences, and then a youth mature into a young adult, and then so these are, even though they're not on the board. And back here, he'll define the young adult again, I think, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I just happened to. Elder youth. Non-combatant, yeah. Young adult, okay. They have 1 less toughness and +1 agility compared to full adults. Full adults are the stats that are given. And youth here is the non-combatant units on the board. The beasts, so you can see where we have the wolves, bears, saber-toothed tigers, lions. It gives different definitions of their stats. So you can see it's quite extensive. Saber-toothed tiger, cave hyena, gigantopithecus, your Yeti, Sasquatch, or Bigfoot, or your big ape miniatures that you may have that you don't use for anything else. Then your prey animals, aurochs, mammoths, woolly rhino, bison, elk, Okay, now the world beneath, this is where they include the sharp-tooth raptors underdwellers. Then you have your different, again, giant ants, your stegosaurus, long neck, and triceratops. Then your giant gorillas, so your King Kong type. Then it gives different equipment that can be generated from having those prey or hunters in your game. Different types of equipment that you might want to have if you are doing a underworld, what is it called? World Beneath game. Prop adventurers, so this is your dinosaur hunters that fall through and or are exploring this strange world and what they can do. The rest is scenarios. I'm going to go over that in another video, I think. But that's an overview I have of the basic rules. It is, you can see where it's crunchy. I think it's cool. I think that's great. And I hope this inspires other people to pick this up and look at it. It's a great, different rule set brought to you by Osprey. In this, you can see there's lots of great art. And tons of different scenarios to do, and it gets more and more extensive when you have the world below versus the primitives, and there's just so much going on here. And you do not, I want to repeat that, you do not have to play the game of the world beneath. That is a optional rule set. So if you want to only stick, so you don't have to play with dinosaurs if you don't want to. But who does not want to play with dinosaurs? I'm sure there are some people out there, but eventually at some point, even you will get bored and want to play with dinosaurs. So remember to like and subscribe. I should have said that earlier in this video, but thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Questions or comments, please leave them below. And I do have a coffee if you're so interested. It's in my profile. Thank you again. Have a great one. Happy gaming.